Hi everyone, Pedro Luferson here, and today is another Draw With Me. This is the first video I started recording in 2026, so Happy New Year! And I, again, just like the previous Draw With Me, this is based on Wicked, because I'm hyper focused on Wicked. I have been hyper focused on Wicked for over a year now, so since the creation of the channel and the previous video about Wicked, the previous videos of Wicked that I made, it's been in my mind for quite a while, rent free. But today's drawing is not based on the movie, like the one from the one for the previous Draw With Me. The one was based on Cynthia Erivo and Jonathan Bailey's Scarecrow. This one's based on the play actually, but not the Broadway play, the Brazilian version of the play that I went to see last year. In case this is the first video you're watching that is from that I made, welcome. I hope you like it. But my previous 3 videos were about Wicked, and the first one was telling the story of how I became a fan. We start with the movie, then the musical, then the book. It was a whole journey. I recommend you go back to watch it. It's one of the most recent ones. But this one is exclusively about the play. Actually, the one of the costumes from the play, to be more specific. And yeah, that's basically it. Today we're gonna talk about it, my inspirations, my thought process, and why I wanted to try it. Because I first of all I think it's a great design. This is the dress Elphaba wears when she during the dancing through life sequence when they go to the Ozdas and Glinda dances together. She and Glinda dance together and they have like a very cute moment of their connecting for the first time. And in the Brazilian production, the actress playing Elphaba, Myra Ruiz, I follow her on Instagram, and she posted this story right here that she used to I assume she used to base her performance on, and the dress of the character is really conceptually similar to her dress. And I was like, damn, that's a very interesting pose and a very interesting dress. Because ironically enough, I had already watched the play when I saw this story, so I had already seen the dress. But looking closely, I was like, that could be a good drawing, that could be a good design. So that's how the idea started. I think that's the best part of this drawing with me kind of videos, is that I don't have to write a full script, or like just come up with something just to say it for the sake of saying it. I I like just this is the drawing and this is what I do, what I wanted to do with it, to do it. So yeah, that's basically the whole conversation is gonna be just what I liked about this drawing, what I enjoy making about it. Because I think just like the previous Draw With Me that I made, I don't want this channel to be everything meticulously scripted, and just sometimes have fun by having fun with the things that I'm making. Okay, but let's talk specifically about this dress. I didn't find, actually, I didn't look up like the design decisions behind this dress in particular. So because I wanted to see things uncloudly, like in my own interpretation, just and because I was a bit too lazy to to look for the original inspirations. But I did a like just looking at the dress, like you can kind of tell the story behind it. But if you don't, I'm gonna tell you my theory. I think this dress, like, for the context, Elphaba never had anything from her father, or she never gotten a gift or anything like that. So she wanted to go to the Oslos ballroom, but she didn't have anything to wear. So this dress, I believe she like made throughout her life with pieces of fabric that nobody was using, a bit like Cinderella from the Disney animated movie. Like in the movie, the rats help her. They get a bunch of random objects from the house that the sister are not using, so they can help her make the dress. I think that's basically the inspirations behind this version of Elphaba, that like she uses pieces of fabric that nobody was using or people are going to throw away, and she create her own dress because her dad never bothered giving her one, unlike with Nessa that he gave her the beautiful silver shoes that eventually became the ruby slippers. So yeah, you can see that all the fabrics have pieces of the headdress that have different textures, different sizes, are different kind of fabrics with different colors. So like I like when they didn't even mention it in the play or anything, but I like how that we can get so much story from from the dress. And like the dress is all, the proportions are, I won't say off, but like they are all very irregular. They are all very, some parts are very big, some parts are very small, like her shoulders. Like I enjoy, I like so much. I love how puffy they are. They are so big. They get your attention right away. It reminds me a little bit of, what was the name of the movie? Poor Things. Yeah, Poor Things with Emma Stone. Like her dresses are also very, how can I say, they are very eye catching. They are very bold. They are very heavy on the top and not as much as on the bottom. And that's what I get from this dress. Like it gets your attention very easily because even though it's mostly black, it has a lot of different colors to contrast, a lot of different textures, especially on the torso, and the skirt that has many layers. And again, the shoulders are very very full of volume. And I think, considering the character itself, how different and outcasted she is, I think it makes a lot of sense that she uses these pieces of fabric to build her personality because no one bothered giving her one. And she in a way had to build herself. She had to create herself. She had to make herself because she was mostly alone in her life. And it's a very original and very her. It's very she. It's very her identity that we've seen in this dress. And I also like the fact that even though it's, you see in the picture, it's mostly black, like sure to connect with her, because Elphaba's main colors are green and black, so it had to be mostly black. But if you look closely, you can see so many different colors. Oh, obviously the lighting helps, but you can see so many different colors in her dress, which is not automatically the first thing you go for when you think of a dress for Elphaba. But it's a very interesting decision because it's a party dress. It's a ball gown in a way, ball gown. And again, she didn't have a lot of options because she was using pieces of fabrics that no one else was using. So she had to work with what she had. And the design is, again, very her. It's very alpha, but in the sense that it's very asymmetrical. It doesn't match everyone else's dresses. It's different. It's, for the best or for the worst, it's outstanding. And in the beginning of the scene, it's for the worst. Like people laugh at her and everything, but in a way, it's still a statement. Like she doesn't have a lot of options. The dress is the dress for me is much like her skin color. It was not her fault. It was not her choice. It's the only thing she has. It's the only thing that she can use to show who she is, and she cannot deny it. She cannot hide it because that's who she is and that's what she has. So the dress is very telling of her own personality and her character as a whole, and it is very connected with her dance, her asymmetrical, weird, and clumsy dance. It suits the asymmetrical, weird, and clumsy in a way dress and her personality as a whole. So it all makes so much sense, even though color is not the first thing that comes to mind when you think of making a dress for Elphaba. And aside from her shears uniform, this is the only moment she wears colors. The shears uniform she wears is purple, but every other outfit in the movie is black. Then we have this one that, again, it's mostly black, but if you look closely, it has so much color. It basically has every single color aside from green because she's already green enough in the design. So yeah, I love this dress. I think it's the most, in a way, profound costume because it tells so much about the character. Not saying that the other costumes are bad at all. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying like this tells so much about the character, so much without saying a single word. This symbolizes so much. This that tells a story without saying a single word, and then it goes by so quickly. Just the scene, the Osdot scene, they dance a little bit, and when we go straight to the popular sequence, Glinda basically tears this dress apart, like removing the layers to help Alpha become a new self, and that's it. We never see the dress during the play again because again it was a ball gown, and it was for a very specific occasion. But still, I miss a little bit because it's so good. It is so simply so good. But that's enough of a backstory. Let's now talking about my drawing. The pose, as you can see, was very similar to the original pose that Myra posted on her story on Instagram. But I didn't quite like how the two hands were up in my drawing, not in the original pose, obviously. I thought it would like hide too much of her face and not show enough texture of her left arm, so I decided to put the arm down. But the left leg is up, like almost like she was making a doing a ballet pose. And back there you could see that I struggle a bit with the hand, but with the left hand. But let's move on with that. But the dress itself, like the length and the skirt, I think that was the thing that I changed the most, because if you again look at the picture, the dress falls in a relatively straight line, but I add so much volume to mine, like the ruffles. That's what you say. The ruffles on the close to the top, they are very fluffy. They are very out there. You know, they are not. They don't have a lot of weight. They have a lot of volume, and that's what I wanted to add, a lot of volume to really catch the eye. And I saturated because of the lighting of the original scene. I put a lot of color. Like there was a lot of yellows and deep dark reds and blues on the original dress, but I want to make the colors pop a little bit because the lighting is different. It's more of a white background, a lighter background, which was quite a challenge. I'm not good with backgrounds. It's one of the things that I need to improve, and creating the background for this drawing was so challenging because I basically didn't know what I was doing. You'll see throughout the video that I struggled with figuring out what to do with it, and then I went back for a simple light solution because anything that was remotely dark wouldn't help the drawing, wouldn't help her dress, wouldn't help how dark it is. So the contrast of a lighter background was the best decision at the end. Now the texture of every different fabric was very fun because I have a lot of brushes that are like, if you're crazy enough to pause and look at some frames, I'm opening like a file that is like flowers and plants, and I used so many of those to make some textures on the fabrics, like mostly the yellow parts. I and a bit on the left, no, on her right, I used a lot of flower and leafy textures to give this different print on the fabric, and it was really fun because I am kind of person that I downloaded a brush, then I'm testing it. So yeah, nice brush. I'm going to use to something completely different that the person who made it recommended. So I used mostly to create this brushy, how can I say, spotted and splashy textures on most of the and many of the different fabrics. And I think my favorite part was the right arm and the witch hat. I went for something very blurry, very cloudy, almost with the very grainy texture, almost like the texture was bleeding out of the clothes, which is actually something that I decided to while I was making. I decided to I'm just gonna make with the whole drawing. I I will use the word bleed because in design, sometimes in graphic design, people use the word bleed to say that an element is getting out of the marge, the corners of the limits of the composition. So I would say I bled a lot of textures because it's this drawing was supposed to be more abstract, not abstract, more conceptual. Like it's more about the concept of the dress than an accurate portrait of it. So the witch dress, the her right arm, I want the textures to almost spread throughout the screen to show like the, how can I say it, like the power of the dress, not the power of the dress, but like how almost to give you to give an illusion of movement and flowiness to the textures and show like how they are almost irradiating from the dress. Turns out that towards the end, I didn't do this just to the dress or the witch hat or her boots, but basically every every single thing in this drawing, including her hair and the green of her skin. I did this with her both her hands and a bit of her with her face, and I'm coming to the realization that I really enjoy like this effect of the textures expanding through the whole scene. And I think especially if you're going for a more abstract vibe, I think that adds a lot of movement, a lot of flowiness. It makes it more alive in a way because it's almost like the life from the drawing is expanding, the textures, the colors are expanding from the drawing, so it's almost like the light of a flame irradiating from the character in a way. Like it's not that cut clean with very smooth lines to make it very beautiful and teeny and tidy. No, it's, I think sometimes the messiness of something, the mess, it's what makes it more interesting to look at. It's what makes it more pleasant. It's more not exactly exactly pleasant, but it like it adds a layer of complexity and spontaneity is that I would say it makes it more spontaneous, and it makes it more playful. I think that's the thing people get away constantly with when they are making concept art, that they can be very messy, very irregular, very experimental. I want to get away with it because it sounds like they're cheating, but deep down, I think it is a bit of a cheat because you're choosing to break some rules, not choosing to break, but like you're choosing to go a bit crazy just for the sake of the feeling of the thing. So it's not cheating. It's just that a different intention behind the drawing. So for this specific drawing, I use a lot of textures that reminds of graffiti and brush strokes, and a specific brush that it's like four parallel dots that when you draw on the screen, they make like four parallel lines. You can see on the screen like on her calves and close to her jaw. Like I went a bit crazy, but it makes the drawing so fun and so in a way crazy, like I'm just exploding with textures and colors, but not too crazy that you can see when one thing starts and one thing's end. But the textures that come like they go along with the original body of color, and they like show how even though it's a distinguishedly human character, that you can see that's where her face starts and that's where her hands start and that's what they end. It's almost like magic was flowing through her, and I kept the face is very identifiable, but for example her right arm is very much a cloud. So if you are not familiar with the original design, you can assume that I went full crazy with her shoulder and arm, but the original one, they it is very much like this. It's very big, it's very fluffy. I just added the texture because it makes so much more interesting to look at. It makes so much more fun. And like I think that's my favorite part because it's looks a lot almost like she's wearing a cloud, you know. And the same thing went with her hat, like it almost like it's fading away as high as it goes higher and higher. And now going back to the background, I took me a hot minute to figure out, as I said, but I went with the light version because the contrast between the lightness of the background and her very dark tones of clothing, I think the contrast looks better that way. But it was really difficult to admit that a lighter background was the best idea, because in every single picture of the dress that I looked up, it was they happened during the scene, and the scene itself on the theater is very dark, like because it's the Osdos ballroom, so like it's very like because people are partying and etc. But so it was very difficult for me to unattach the idea of I had to give her a background because it suits her dress better, because it came from all the reference that I was using. So using a light background was not the quickest thing to admit that was the best decision, but turns out it's the best decision, and I'm fully happy with it. And I was just like with the dress and her skin, I was able to give a lot of texture, and like I was using this very light green to like create a like a shadow behind her. Then the green became the yellow, and like I gave a lot of textures. I used that brush that I mentioned that is about like brush strokes and the parallel dots that create lines. Actually, these parallel dots, like when you stroke creates lines. I used a lot on Elphaba's hair on the previous Draw With Me to make her braids, because Cynthia Erivo uses braids like micro braids, and it's very useful, and it gives a very very nice texture and a effect that it's not as practical when it comes to realism, but it's so interesting because again you can use to give so much interest to the image. It makes very like, wow, why did they use that, you know. It's not the thing that you think you would use to make something interesting, but once you do, it pays off so well. I've really enjoyed it, and since I downloaded it, I've been using in many drawings. Actually, I'm planning on making another draw with me, drawing like a new profile picture, because I got sick of that outfit that I'm wearing on the previous one. So I'm planning on using this brush on my own hair, because I have curly hair and I really like this brush, so I would use an excuse to use it again. But enough talking about future drawings. I think this drawing right here, I think the main thing that I took from it is to play more with textures and different brushes to create different textures, because especially on the right arm, oh, sorry, the left arm, I used many different colors, many different fabrics, and I want them all to look very distinguished but still belonging to the same part of the drawing. So I have like dozens of brushes, maybe hundreds of brushes that I don't really use, because there's so many things that I want to do with a few brushes. So looking for them and using them randomly to create these new textures was a pretty fun activity, and I think I might use it more when I draw more of those abstract drawings like this, or more conceptual ones, because they have more permission to be very experimental, because they're just concepts or they're abstract. So I think it's like a sandbox. It allows me to do very different and experimental stuff, things that I would do here, that I did here, that I wouldn't do on Theater and Alphaba's drawing, because that was about capturing a specific moment in a very specific way that I added a lot of details, a lot of textures, but this was meant to be a bit more magical, in a way, more ethereal. So yeah, it was really nice making this drawing. I really enjoyed it. But I will admit that towards the end, I got too focused on the small details of her face, and like I tend to, when I'm, especially towards the end, there's a big detail like it. If you go back to previous draw with me, I did a lot of this with Elphaba's hand and arm when she's hugging Fiero. Like I didn't get right like with the sketch, so I have to do a lot of repairs with dozens of layers at the same time, which was a pain to like to figure out like the proper pose and position of her arm and her shoulders. And basically the same thing happened with Elphaba's face here. I tried to replicate Myra's face, and it all went boils down to I'm trying to be new and experimental or trying to do something close to the original inspiration. In that case, Myra and her face. So it always ends up like I'm very loose and not loose and fun, but like I'm much more relaxed in the process. But towards the end, I find something that I get very focused on, and it gets exhausting for me. Like I just wanted to get this right and move on, because sometimes getting a bit too obsessed with a particular detail can be very exhausting. Like I get a bit sick of the drawing because I was enjoying so much, I was having such a easy flow, but then you got stuck in a specific part that really drags you. And I'll try to, for the next drawings, like either plan before at the beginning so I won't have to manage so many layers at the end, or just embrace the fact that it won't look exactly or anatomically correct or just like their reference. So yeah, I don't think I will be able to solve this very quickly, because most of these problems are not the easiest to predict, but we'll see what happens. And this is the final drawing. I gotta say, I'm pretty happy with it. I really enjoyed it. I think the textures, again, especially the witch hat and her right arm and many different little parts of her dress, like this foamy, blurry texture. I think that really did the trick to give like this very conceptual, experimental, and ethereal vibe. I really enjoyed it, and currently it's the my background on my computer, which is always rotating because always the new drawing I make is the latest background. But anyways, I think that was an I think that was enough to like get my drawings about Wicked out of my system for a while at least. I did the Glinda and the Alphaba for the main videos, and the other drawing with me with Fiero and Alphaba. And this, I believe, is the final one that I'm gonna do for a while. I don't know, maybe I'll do another one in the future just because, but I think this like closes my artistic Wicked journey in a way. Because these are the things that inspired me the most. So yeah, and that's it for today. Don't forget to leave a like, share this video with someone that you think will enjoy it, and leave a comment down below saying what you thought of my drawing. And last but not least, subscribe please, it would make me very happy and you won't miss out on the new videos I'll be posting. So that's it, bye.